Hello, everyone. I would like to very quickly and very pleasantly talk about a slightly unpleasant situation in which many of us have been in. And that situation is to sit on a bus and to be in a bus ride and to experience, in a sense, at times the loneliness of mankind, the insanity of mankind, the actings and workings of human nature, and for really life to give you a moment to recollect all that you know within the eyes of other strangers. And what we immediately see is that our experience is normally colored by our other experiences. However, when we find a conscious being acting, that action does not simply belong just to the idea in which that being uses to consider itself. In other words, many self-sustaining systems are at times systems that require man to sit and confront his loneliness, similar to that moment when you're looking out the bus window and in a sense confronting your own reflection and at the same time the outside world. When we have many moments that pass us by, we find ourselves in again the pleasantness that one may find when they really look at what they're looking at. You see that you may visualize a man running on the curb as you're in the bus, or someone who can follow you in character in your imagination to see how you're being sustained in your reality. When I sat on the bus, and there have been many times, I have noticed that it gives me an opportunity to confront my own experience, but to see how others in my society are communicating. And I see that the magic is gone unless someone begins to speak with a newfound excitement and newfound inspiration. We see that many human beings have grown externally distant because they are too distracted within their internal experience to try to figure out where their experience is occurring and what bodies are involved. And so man has now found more time and has created a language that utilizes a precision in which his imagination wants to be measured in many ways. But the consciousness that we are is again simply like a candle, and we find that what we know ourselves to be is a changing process but illuminating a certain eternal glow. And this eternal glow belongs to greater cycles of change, but many cycles of change are found to be meaningless once change is no longer measured. Once consciousness begins to flow and remember itself, that awareness that you have to your sense of self and your sense of being is one that is very flowing. It has always gone. You were always aware that you were on the bus and life was moving, and you were always awaiting greater experiences of learning. So the next time you sit on the bus, may you perhaps see that silence is an option, but so is the exploration of other human beings and other human consciousness. Because outside of your parents, outside of the people you know, outside of the family that you know. You must explore more of existence to expand your own existential family. In other words, your consciousness is your illumination, and illumination does not need to be misinterpreted in ways where the context seems deceptive. You are simply here, you are alive, you're present, and this natural sense of communication that you have is your own ability to confront and to move past the rubble of your fears, to perceive a light that is equivalent to dawn after confronting the darkest moments of your existence. You know, it invites fantasy, but it transcends fantasy. It invites science fiction, but it transcends science fiction. But at all times, man's society is growing. And so the lessons that our physical collective consciousness requires, rather than our more non-visible and, in a sense, transcendental and very transparent and empty sense of consciousness, that consciousness is one that requires a different stage of absorption. So your life will provide you with the seat in which you are required to sit to look at everyone else on the bus. But when sitting on the bus, we see that human nature is really its own greatest lesson. And so once the student has learned the wisdom of the master, there is no mastery and there is no apprenticeship that needs to be had to any other idea other than your most immediate sense of innate being and awareness. Isolation has blinded man away from human communication. And we may find this evident again on this bus ride. But human isolation is simply the attention that coexists with memory. And the memory that we find to be sustainable in regards to how we use language is one that is trying to follow linear bodies of self-awareness. What we see that the consciousness of the human being is driving itself towards non-linear self-awareness. And it always has had that. And so you see that what was to you the most significant story and game and trial of trying to figure out the truth, after many apocalypses and judgment days, you will see that the mind of man has the ability to be aware of itself in an instant. And so that awareness works greater than bodies that maintain memory. And so you're not simply memory, but you are the whole process. You're not simply, you're no longer in the bus, you are in the cosmos. And so once your alertness to the forms in which you are becoming aware of shifts, your collective has just kissed you on the forehead, which you thought always belonged to an individual self. And that moment of knowing is one of existential bliss and a sense of openness, a sense of freedom that consciousness remembers in its dissolution of the forms in which it thinks it's attached or it needs to be detached in. There is a sense of freedom that does not waste time and space. The moment you remember it, you know it, and you feel that presence. This is the beginning platform. And so you are a seed that is sprouting. You are getting out of the dirt, getting out of the dualistic way of thinking about how you're entrapped in dreams that you cannot wake up from. And in a sense, we are never stuck in these elusive ways of interpreting our moment of experience. How you interpret your moment of experience is simply how the environment is utilizing your livelihood as a transference and the opening canal of non-linear and linear information that is based on a body of design. And it's not that I would not have conversations with Fibonacci, but there is more to our understanding than the bodies in which we have currently and have always, in a sense, been using. In other words, there's some bodies of thought that are impeding man's ability to, in a sense, remember the infinity in its eyes, in his eyes. And so, the next time, again, you're sitting on the bus, let deep ideas engage you and let your seat be comfortable. Have an existential comfort. In other words, it is okay to sit on the bus and suddenly see that you can increase your compassion and your sense of love and profound gratefulness and appreciation for life. In all forms and in all those strangers on the bus, you can find the compassion that perhaps is the awakening and inspiration of many good deeds to be, again, a discovery in your own self-awareness. And sitting on the bus no longer feels that lonely. Because you see that what is connecting man is never the idea of man, the shape of man, the thoughts of man, but the self-awareness of man in this coexistential game of very serious occurrence of presence. And so once you really see your nature within the cosmos, you see actually your nature is really based on the cosmos. And it is always you who can introduce you to the universe in the most natural, aligned, and meant to be way. And let yourself do this. Enjoy all bus rides. Much blessings and namaste. Because after a while of living the way you have, you'll probably get off that bus and you might come back to it again eons later and again smile at how reality, seems to have always changed but never has really changed. Much blessings